So thank you for listening to our story. I thought that taking actually a game that wasn't our biggest success, still did well, but wasn't our biggest success, actually learn from it would be nice. So I wanted to share one of our games based on a franchise called Now You See Me from Lionsgate. We launched that. We learned a lot from that. We still do, but there's enough there to share that knowledge with everyone. And here, no? No? I think we're...
Try again. Yay!
Yay, okay. So just a quick background, Sidekick started in 2010, focusing on two businesses. One is creating game demos for new technologies. So we worked very early on technologies that later became the Xbox Kinect, motion controls in general, room scale, body scale, down to fingertips. Later on with other type of camera image processing. And in 2014, very early on, Oculus started to speak to us on what later became the Gear VR. We had a launch title, Romans from Mars. Protocol Zero was also a launch title, became top grossing game. We're bringing it very soon again with more support for the new platforms. Later on, Age of Diamonds, which was endorsed by Nolan Bushnell, founder of Atari. New games are coming up, and Now You See Me was launched a few weeks ago. And overall, we rocked a lot of downloads and users in different genres and different categories. For us, VR was a very interesting platform. It really evolved a lot of what we tested very early days, 7 years ago, with 3D control. That was done in front of a 2D framed experience, meaning TV, and then taking a lot of those lessons, like people are actually getting tired when they're jumping in front of their TV, or most people are not the best ninjas in the world, even though we want them to think that, into actually covering that into the 3D or sort of 3D visual side or display side of the entire experience. We found, though, that there's something, when we looked at VR, that VR could be great on, and we sort of categorized them. One was storytelling, whether it's through role-playing or any other way, because of VR immersion gets you into the situation. It's a great platform to tell very immersive, very emotional stories. And hidden object was one of the categories, one genre that we felt was great to test in order to understand the potential and to also research how you can bring that very proven genre into a new platform, into a new way to tell the story in a sort of a step-by-step, very researchy mode that we usually work with. Through speaking to a number of partners that we work with, we started to speak to the awesome team at Lionsgate about different franchises. They are very excited about VR. They're involved in many different projects that extend to VR, like John Wick. We sort of targeted Now You See Me as a long-running franchise. The first movie did very, very well. It showed a number of very famous actors. It extended with new actors, also to China as well, with a very famous singer named Jay Chou. And we felt that the entire storyline, the very busy scenes that they had, first movie and definitely the second movie, was actually pretty cool franchise to work on. We signed the agreement and started to create the game. And we went into production. Into production, we wanted to make sure, on a few things, how we can actually create something that's scalable, that is a research, but within the knowledge of what is hidden object and the long, many years of experience we and some of our partners have. And one thing that we've done, and there's obviously where was a lot of debating, is how 3D we want to go versus how 2D we want to go, and how much we want to extend the knowledge base that already exists in the market for the creation of those type of puzzle and adventure games. So the first thing was actually a big decision was to go into sort of more 360 environment than full 3D. That actually had affected a lot of the decision and a lot of the outcome later on. It was very good, scalable, technical decision. And we actually found out that through the modification of the tool base that is existing today for hidden object game, obviously making things in different sizes, different resolutions, making sure some element work well, we've created 360 environment where you can look around. Most of the action is in front of you, as in most of the dialogues and finding the actual items that you need to do in a hidden object game will be in sort of 100 degrees or 90 to 100 degrees in front of you. But the entire experience would feel like you're in that scene, you're in that environment, rather than building everything in 3D. For different reasons. It worked out pretty well. We got very good feedback from more casual players who felt that this was easier on the eye, easier on the experience, and a great first-time experience for what VR is for those people who find roller coasters and zombies jumping at you a bit more difficult. Very much along those lines, we wanted to create a game that allows people to really dive deep into the actual story, but will not feel like a promotional piece for the movie itself. The replayability in hidden object game allowed us to do that, but we actually went on to creating a totally separate storyline for the movie, allowing sort of that balanced game that gives you a good hour plus of gameplay with high replayability. And some crazy 3D effects that really work well in VR. The storyline was sort of fan fiction, side story to the actual game. And then, when we looked at actually budgeting the experience, actually figuring out how we want to do that, we went into more of a business thinking of really understanding what is the business potential right now for mobile VR platforms, focusing on Gear VR, where most of our business is at, and then extending into potentially other platforms as well, where we know that the revenue potential was much lower, although there definitely more interest in getting more downloads and more exposure. We tried to calculate all that in and really figure out what would be the right budget for this type of business for us. The same way, when we went out and started to decide about the business model itself, we felt that it was a good opportunity for us to test a business model that we haven't seen before, which is called freemium, free download, and then with the paywall, after some gameplay time, you can actually pay one-time fee to unlock the rest of the missions or the rest of the story. With a one-off payment, you actually buy the rest of the game. That business model, by the way, was great back in the downloaded games about 10 years ago in 2005, 2006. So basically, with this is sort of an older sketch, but you do case 1, case 2, and then you unlock with a one-time payment the rest of the cases, giving you the entire experience. So the results were this. The game launched a couple of months ago in May 17. It was a year after the movie came out. Fortunately, the storyline was separate, so this was a nice extension of the franchise, both from Lionsgate and the fan-based perspective. So that worked pretty well. That said, the type of exposure we got, the type of promotion we got was much, much limited, and that was very much a miss in terms of marketing and the potential. More importantly, if you think back a year ago versus where we are now, the media attention and the user base attention moved from mobile VR to high-end platform. You don't see a lot of buzz today in anything that's happening on gear, definitely not enough. There are some amazing games out there, but most users today and media definitely more focusing on the higher-end platforms and what's happening there, and that definitely affected our marketing plan and what eventually the type of exposure we actually get. And eventually, when we got the game out, we got really low number of bottom line revenues. And the downloads were better than our shooter, at least at launch, but still nothing close to the actual core audience. So we did more research, and some of it is basic business decisions, and that definitely affects how we approach things. One, audience we feel is still core, not necessarily core gamers, by the way, but core VR enthusiasts. Everyone is still looking for that very visually rich, immersive experiences, that presence. We felt that we reached out to a wider audience, but that wider audience is not there yet on the platform. Freemium model, definitely very much along those lines, way too early. People, especially on the higher end platform, including Gear VR, are okay with paying premium of $7.99 plus for a good experience. And there's no need necessarily to go freemium right now, depending on the actual game, obviously. Same thing, we talked about quality. People are looking for that higher end experience. The 360 experience was not enough, and definitely the additional effects that we invested more were not enough to get people excited in terms of that core audience that I was talking about. Obviously, exposure, the brand timing, the movie, didn't work out well. We did started to get some traction in other territories, though, and China is definitely a place where we're looking for more exposure with Jay Chow leading there, and we've partnered in China for launching the game very soon after localizing the story itself. So what's next? We're still very excited about storytelling and IP-based storytelling in VR. We feel that there's still huge opportunity there, but obviously match that with the audience. So thinking about themes, the experience, the quality of production in general, adapting that to where we are today and where the market is evolving with additional new platforms that are coming in. Having the story level itself alone is not enough. We're looking to add more mini games and more excitement around VR. Sticking to premium model, for me, at least for the next 12 to 18 months, I don't think we'll need to change that in terms of the numbers I know. And extend to other platforms, so not focusing only on Gear VR or only on mobile, more casual platform. If you get a good game, obviously think about all platforms. Going from smaller, lower end platforms up is not a big technical challenge, so it's mostly marketing and adaptation to take care of. Thank you very much. If you have any question, we're more than happy to share our experience. We have some cooler games. Protocol Zero is still doing very, very good. And hopefully this was beneficial for some of you who are looking to bring new games to market. Thank you.